AEW WrestleDream 2024 happened last night, and it is officially in the book. We're going to go through the entire card and give my thoughts and feelings just on all the storyline beats and every single match in general. And just giving my overall thoughts at the top of this video. I thought it was a really good show. You know, it was pretty unique in the fact that it's one of these longer cards, but it didn't have anything that was really bad on it, in my opinion. There were obviously some lower points on the show than the really high highs, but there was nothing that I watched and I was like, oh, that's, that really stood out and was bad, which often happens on these AEW pay-per-views. They typically have a few matches that aren't super good, and you're like, well, why was that on the show? And there were some matches that had some builds that you were like, well, why is that on the show? But ultimately, at the end of the match, you kind of came out of it, at least me, and we're like, oh, that was actually good and delivered, and they got the crowd on into it by the end of it. So overall, I thought the main show was really good. One of the better pay-per-views this year, I would say, and I know a lot of people had some complaints about how many matches are on the card and just the overall time that these events take, and I totally get that, but for me, if I'm paying $50 for a pay-per-view, I would much rather have that than have 6 or 7 matches. And it's a lot different, when you're thinking about the WWE formula where you're just paying for a subscription and then you get the pay-per-view or the PLE for free. And the models are just a lot different. For me, I would prefer getting more matches that I'm actually interested in than just, less matches. But I think both formulas work for what they're going for on each platform, pay-per-view or PLE subscription model. So yeah, I'll briefly go over the pre-show before getting into the actual main card, and this pre-show was entirely skippable. It was pretty much filled with just Rampage, Collision, or Dynamite matches that could be inserted on any single one of those, with the Bryan Cage Atlantis Jr. match, the Acclaimed MXM Collection match, and then the 8-man tag. It was the Outrunners, Orange Cassidy, and Kyle O'Reilly defeating the Premier Athletes in the Dark Order. And then there was one truly horrible match. I mean, the Anna Jay and Harley Cameron match is one of the worst matches of the year. And maybe if you want like a comedy match to go out of your way and watch, I mean, that match was pretty awful. I like Anna Jay's improvements. And I think Harley Cameron is a lot better than she has any right to be at this point. And I do enjoy her act on television, but these two did not have a good match at all. And then, like I said, the Bryan Cage Atlanta Jr. match, it was all right. I caught the end of it and didn't really get to see the beginning, but it was whatever. And then the Acclaimed and MXM Collection, I'm just not into either one of these acts at this point. I don't really enjoy or look forward to any of their segments, so the work in it was fine. I thought Rico being involved was probably the highlight of the entire angle and match for me. And then, like I said, the actual, the main event of the pre-show was an 8-man tag, and this could just fit in on any Rampage, Collision, Dynamite, whatever, and it's nothing to go out of your way to see. It was just a standard, way to get these baby faces a win on the pre-show before the actual card started. The opener of AEW WrestleDream 2024 was definitely one to go out of your way and see, though. We had Jay White defeating Hangman Adam Page in 16 minutes and 29 seconds. And the finish of this match was really great. We had Hangman trying to go for a buckshot lariat, but Jay White had been working over his knee and his leg for pretty much all of the match, and so he struggled with that. And by the time he actually went for the buckshot, Jay White was able to counter that into a Blade Runner for the win, and the crowd popped huge for it. I mean, this was great stuff. You had a hard-hitting back-and-forth match. Babyface Jay White was awesome in it, and Hangman Page is just the perfect wrestler overall. It was great selling of the knee. The crowd were super into this, and I thought it was really fun to watch Jay White kind of work this match as a baby. Not kind of, he did work this match as a babyface, and there was a lot of times where the New Japan fans were calling for him to really turn it up and become a massive white meat babyface in Japan when he was actually working there, and it just never came. If this first match was any indication, then he's going to be great for this role. I give this 4.25 stars. I thought it was a really excellent match to open up the card, and Hangman doesn't lose anything by losing this match. Jay White, I think, is ultimately going to be a challenger maybe for Jon Moxley in the coming months as like a challenger of the month or the pay-per-view cycle, and so they'll probably build him up to that, and I think it's definitely smart to give him a win in his first match back. Moving to the next match, we had Mariah May defeating Willow Nightingale to retain the AEW Women's Championship in 10 minutes and 52 seconds, and I'm a big fan of both of these women. I think they're two of the best in the division. I think, honestly, Willow Nightingale, I think Mariah May is good, and she's definitely a person to build the division around and the company around long term, but I think Willow Nightingale is probably my favorite women's wrestler in the world right now. She just brings it every single time she's in the ring. Her character is great. She's gotten really, really good at cutting promos. Her crowd connection is awesome, and she's just the quintessential babyface. She goes in there, hits hard, and just hasn't, like I said, hasn't a great crowd connection, and all of her moves look really good. She busted out a moonsault in this match. I don't think I've ever seen her do that before. Maybe she has, it's just been a long time. And Mariah May was great with her offense as well. I haven't loved her character or her promos really since she turned from Toni Storm. I think her match quality has still been pretty good, but not super invested in the character. This was a really, really good match. Another one. I honestly wanted Willow to win the title, but long-term wise, I think her story is more so being the one who dethrones Mercedes Moné and captures that title back from her. So it wouldn't really make sense for her to win this women's world title. But I was just pulling and rooting for it in the spur of the moment, honestly. Nothing really to complain in this match, though. I gave it 3.75 stars. I thought it was really strong and followed up the opener between Jay White and Hangman Page really well. Third match on the card, we had Jack Perry defeating Katsuyori Shibata to retain the TNT Championship. I thought this was a pretty solid match. It was one of my least favorite on the card. And that's not really look, I thought Katsuyori Shibata in this match was absolutely phenomenal. He turned back the clock, and it seemed like he was going back to like 2014 to 2017 before, his brain got removed from his skull. He was really turning back the clock and going to that Shibata era. And so I thought he was really good in this match. Jack Perry, he really hasn't clicked with me since he turned heel into this new scapegoat character. I think his character work has been better than it was before any of his other, whenever he got suspended and whenever he was just Jungle Boy. I think this character is better than both of those, but his ring work hasn't connected with me or clicked with me in that way. So there's kind of a cap on Jack Perry matches, but I only gave this one 3 stars, but it was still solid. It just wasn't at that upper echelon like the rest of these matches on the card. Like I said, though, I thought Shibata was excellent in this match. And the finish was a bit odd. I understand what they were going for. Shibata had like a sleeper hold on Jack Perry, and Perry bridged and caught Shibata for the 3. So we're making Jack Perry look even more like a heel, kind of making it look like he just escaped with a victory. So I get what they were going for. It didn't really land for me. I thought it was okay finish. I saw people hating it. I don't really know why people would hate it. I think some people loved it. I kind of fall in the middle. My only real nitpick is that, like I said, I guess I could see people hating it if they thought it was just really bad and made Shibata look stupid, which I kind of agree, but I didn't hate it that much. The work before that was solid, though. After that, Jack Perry is putting a beating on Shibata, and then Daniel Garcia makes the save. And this is the stretch of where we had so many returns. We had Daniel Garcia making the save, and then we had MJF's music hit, and he came out all clean-shaven, looking like he was filming for a movie. He came out, started beating down Daniel Garcia, and then Adam Cole's music hit, and he came out and made the save for Daniel Garcia after Daniel Garcia made the save for Katsuyori Shibata. So we had a lot of stuff happening in this segment. And I do think it's kind of funny, and it doesn't really make sense at all that Adam Cole is just a pure babyface now after he was just on the shelf being this devil for a long time. Obviously, he's a babyface now because he's going to feud with MJF, who is firmly established as a heel, and you can't have these two feuding with both of them being heels. So obviously that makes sense, but it's just kind of a weird look optically because there was no real build-up to him being a babyface. He's just been gone. And even when he wasn't healthy, he was still being dragged around on a wheelchair being a heel. So that really doesn't make sense. We'll see what his explanation is. But, I don't expect anything, crazy to really explain why he's a babyface now. Just being like, I was the devil, but now I've been saved. I don't know. He's going to say something. Ultimately, this segment was fun and had a lot of returns and set up a lot of good storylines heading forward. I'm sure that eventually Daniel Garcia is going to get that big win over MJF now that he has officially signed his contract. They were going to do that before, but they didn't want to give him a win if he didn't actually sign it and then just have a moonwalk into NXT after beating MJF, which I understand. But I do expect eventually that to be the program where he gets the win, and ultimately I do think that Daniel Garcia is the guy who is going to dethrone Jack Perry's TNT title run. Moving on to what I thought was the match of the night, we had Konosuke Takeshita defeating Will Ospreay and Ricochet to win the International Championship in 20 minutes and 42 seconds. And honestly, I just wrote down, just like as a note, I just wrote, not even sure what to say, honestly, incredible shit, and I gave it 4.75 stars. So I gave this rating the same rating that I gave the CM Punk and Drew McIntyre Hell in a Cell match. Very, very different matches, obviously, but they just made me feel really proud and really happy to be a wrestling fan in the moment in completely different ways. Punk and Drew was the storyline, the culmination, super bloody personal battle, and then this triple threat was just guys going out there. There was obviously a little bit of a story behind it, but just guys going out there and doing stuff that nobody else in the world can really do. I mean, Will Ospreay is one of the best wrestlers in the world, and Konosuke Takeshita is not far behind him. I haven't been super impressed with Ricochet's outings since he's joined AEW. I thought his matches have been good. They've all been like 3.25 stars, 3.5 stars, but nothing has blown me away, and I was a little disappointed in the Will Ospreay match. But this one, I mean, you have this collection of guys, give them 20 minutes to go out there. They're going to kill it and just put on an absolute show. And if you don't like this style of match, I get that. I would implore you to actually watch the full match, maybe, instead of just watching clips that people post on Twitter or just any social media, just to kind of get a feel for the actual full match. Just getting a 30-second to a minute clip really isn't going to do justice for what they were going for. And if you still don't like it, that's fine. But me personally, I love these type of style of matches. I think they're good. And I just can't imagine sitting down watching this and going after the match, yeah, that wasn't wrestling. That sucked. I just can't imagine that. I thought it was phenomenal. And I even thought the finish was really good. I usually don't like these type of finishes in wrestling. I think they're overdone and not done super well. But I do think that this match and this finish set up long-term stories that are going to play off great. We had Don Callis pulling out the ref when Ospreay was going to win. Then we had Ospreay looking like he was going to get his hands on Don Callis, and then Kyle Fletcher, who you could tell it was Kyle Fletcher from a mile away with it because he has terrible genes and bad hair, and you could tell it was Fletcher from a mile away. He hit Ospreay with the screwdriver from behind, and then Takeshita hit him with a knee to win the International Championship. And this is obviously setting up long-term program between Fletcher and Ospreay. Ospreay versus Fletcher is going to be absolutely phenomenal when they do it in Grand Slam Australia. I'm sure that's going to be, if not the marquee match, one of the marquee matches for that show in February. And I'm excited for where this feud's going to go. But yeah, the match, I mean, you can't really recap everything that was in the match. I mean, it was just insane shit for 20 minutes. I mean, definitely go out of your way to watch this, and I thought it was one of the best matches of the year, maybe. I mean, I definitely one of the top 20, I would say, for sure. Didn't get 5 stars from me, but I thought it was absolutely great. Then we had a Swerve Strickland segment where he came out. Crowd were super into him. Obviously, it was Washington, so they're going to be into Swerve. And he cut a great promo. I haven't always loved Swerve's promos. I think they've been a little bit too cartoonish sometimes, but this one was pretty great. And MVP was also great on the mic. He came out with Shelton Benjamin, and they're obviously teasing the Bobby Lashley incoming debut and program with Swerve. And I would say that's probably going to happen on Dynamite. I think there were some reports that they didn't want to crowd this show up with too many debut and returns because they had it loaded up already, obviously, with the previous segment with Adam Cole, MJF, and then the segment at the end of the show. So that makes some sense. Promo segment was good, though. Nothing to write home about. It kind of fell flat because there was no Lashley, but good back and forth between MVP and Swerve for the most part. Then we had Hologram defeating the Beast Mortos in 2 out of 3 falls match. Crowd were really dead for this, and it was disappointing. I think this just proves that these guys need to get some more time on Dynamite for people to actually watch and care about them. Hologram has obviously been a pet project for Tony Khan, and he's been racking up wins on Collision. Most people don't watch Collision who watch these shows, so that's probably why they didn't feel a connection to this match. They did do some awesome stuff, and they have really great and incredible chemistry, but the crowd connection stopped it from getting to the next level for me, though. It still was a good match. I give it 3.5 stars, but at the end of the day, the crowd connection kind of held it back. They were popping for the certain spots because a lot of these spots in this match were crazy, like the Mortos body slam off the top, or the press slam off the top rope is always an insane move, and his diving spinning plancha or whatever he does is always awesome, and Hologram pulls out some sick dives. The crowd condition just really wasn't there for the long portions. Let's just hope that Hologram and Beast Mortos can get on Dynamite and get in some programs moving forward, because these two guys are really, really talented and deserve these spotlights and these type of matches to show out on pay-per-view. Next up, we had Darby Allin defeating Brody King, and this was really a perfect formula for this match. It went about 12 minutes or so, and that was, like I said, perfect for the formula and the layout for this match. Brody King is one of the more underutilized guys in AEW, I would say. I think they should push him really, really hard. Get him out of the House of Black stable. He can be in it, but I mean, I don't really want to see him in trios or tag team matches with those guys. I think he's way better than both of them, honestly. I'm a much bigger Brody King fan than Malachi Black or Buddy Matthews. And it was just big man Brody beating Darby's ass for most of the match, and Darby just having the I will not die energy, and ultimately it prevailed and he picked up the victory. At the end of the match, Brody King took a nasty looking bump. Darby kind of threw him off the top turnbuckle. He landed on some steel steps. Then Darby hit a coffin drop on those steel steps to him, and then Brody King rolled back in the ring, got hit with another coffin drop. That was enough for the victory. And it was just David versus Goliath. Darby always throws his body around and is willing to risk his body in these type of matches. He's the best underdog in wrestling, I think. He's really great in this role. Same layout for all of his matches, but his level of danger and the way he risks his body just really elevates that to where you think this guy's literally going to die every time that he goes out there. And, Brody King was like literally picked up Darby like a baby at one point and was just tossing him around. It was really funny and just a great visual overall. And yeah, I gave this one 4 stars. I thought the layout and the formula was perfect and it was very simple, but these guys are so talented. Crowd was so into it that it really brought this match to life. Definitely one of the better matches on the show, I would say. AEW World Tag Team Championship match. The Young Bucks defeated Private Party in 15 minutes and 49 seconds. I thought the build-up to this match was not good at all. I really wasn't into this match heading into it in the slightest. I thought that I was not into it because you had Private Party just being jobbers the past few years, and you had them getting absolutely destroyed by Mox and his gang the past month or so, and they really didn't give them any wins or build them up at all until the past week. And for me, it was hard to get invested into that just for a week. And after the finish of this match, I think that long term they are going to build them in a more story focused way, and ultimately I think it'll lead to them beating the Bucks for these tag team titles, and it'll finally feel earned. But they did have a really good Amazing Red package before the match. Then the Bucks, when they were in the ring, called them mid-carders for life, and this is the biggest match of your life, and then the Bucks just beat them. So I thought that was pretty funny. But like I said, I think this is leading to a long-term Private Party title win. I mentioned before, I wasn't into the build. I wasn't super interested into this. At the end of the match, it ended up being pretty good. It had tons of great near falls, and the crowd ended up being very invested into it by the end. And so I give this one 3.25 stars. It wasn't anything blow away, but it surpassed my expectations definitely. I didn't really expect much from this. The Bucks really, and you don't know what you're getting nowadays. They have had some good matches the past few months, but before that, we were kind of like, oh, are the Bucks washed now? What are they doing? But yeah, I thought this was a solid match. It wasn't anything blow away, but it was a pretty solid match that I think is going to be building to things in the long run, and ultimately probably going to be one of the building blocks for Private Party to ultimately dethrone the Bucks' current tag team title run. Semi-main event, we had ROH World Champion Mark Briscoe defeating Chris Jericho in, again, 15 minutes and 18 seconds. And look, I don't hate Chris Jericho as much as most people these days. I find some of his segments funny, but his matches definitely do not deliver these days. He had one of the worst matches of the year with Mystico in Mexico recently, and he's really hit or miss. I don't really think you can really expect great matches from Jericho these days, but this was a solid match. They laid it out pretty well. I enjoyed the story going into it where, Chris Jericho stated Jay Briscoe's name, and then Mark was like, look, all right, I'm just going to beat the shit out of you. This is not about the ROH Championship. This is personally now. You don't invoke the name of my dead brother. And they played into that after Briscoe hit the J Driller for the finish. And Mark Briscoe is just unbelievable. I mean, I don't. Chris Jericho is fine in this match. Mark Briscoe is one of the best guys on this roster. He is so good. And I hope eventually they do elevate him past this ROH World title and get him some AEW gold. He was great in this match, and Chris Jericho gave him a lot. Mark was just beating the shit out of him early in this match, and Jericho was bumping all over the place for him. And once again, Jericho loses, puts over another guy. I give this one 3 stars. It over-delivered for me, at least. I thought it was a pretty solid match, and it was laid out very well. Worked super smartly, and I really did enjoy this for what it was. Main event time, we had Jon Moxley defeating Bryan Danielson to win the AEW World Championship in 26 minutes and 52 seconds. I saw a lot of people complaining about the finish of this match, and I really don't get why. They worked a long match. Danielson was fired up at the end, and at the end of the day, Moxley was too good, locked him in a choke. He passed out. I don't really understand what maybe it's just because I know Danielson is ultimately going to come back in the long run. This may be the end of his full-time career, but he's obviously going to come back and do some part-time stuff, whether it be WWE or AEW. For me, I never doubted that this was going to be the spot where he was going to lose the title. I think Tony Khan honestly had to kick and drag Danielson kicking, screaming to even get him to win this title. So I think we were fortunate that we even got him winning the title, honestly. There's a report coming out that, Moxley was the one who Danielson wanted to drop the title to. That was never in doubt. I mean, Danielson had say over most of his entire run, and obviously his final match was going to be who he wanted to go up against, just like Sting wanted to go up against the Young Bucks. This was very similar in that regard. But yeah, I gave this one 4.25 stars. I thought the work was excellent. The way it started off with Danielson coming out and Moxley hitting him and attacking him while the final countdown was playing, and then them playing the final countdown during the first 2 minutes of the match, I thought was so fun and a great way to kick off the match. There was no blood. I think that Washington's a no blood state or something like that, so no blood, unfortunately. I did think the intensity was there. Danielson showed great fire, and Moxley is in great shape now, really motivated, it looks like. They went out there, delivered an excellent match. Thought the ending was good. It seems like people are split on that. And the closing angle on the show I thought was executed well. We had Wheeler Yuta turning, but being conflicted though. He didn't look up after Darby Allin came out to fend off the new stable from Mox after Mox won the title, saving Danielson. Yuta came out too, and then Yuta hits the knee on Darby while he's distracted, and he looks conflicted. And so I enjoy that Wheeler Yuta is not fully bought in yet. Like, he realizes this is the right decision for him to make, but he's not fully confident, and he feels bad about it. He doesn't want to hurt Danielson or Darby, and I'm glad he didn't just come up like a comic book villain with a smirk on his face, like, oh, I was in on it all along. Like, I'm glad that didn't happen. I'm glad there's some layers to his character. And then you had all the baby faces in the locker room come out and run everyone off eventually. I like that touch. And I really don't get what everyone is so mad about here. You had Danielson being stretchered off to end the show. I mean, Excalibur crying was fucking brutal. I mean, that was awful. I could go without that. But overall, I thought the angle was really good. I don't really know what people are complaining about. People are saying the ending ruined the show. I really don't get... I don't know. Maybe somebody can fill me in the comments. I really don't understand what the backlash of that is. It was a pro wrestling angle that was designed to make you feel and make you really upset at this new group, and Jon and Moxley and Marina Shafir, Claudio, Pac, and Wheeler Yuta, and then you're supposed to be rooting for all the baby faces, Darby being a key one who's obviously going to be on his path of winning the AEW World Championship. I really don't see the complaints here. I thought it was an effective angle, and I don't know. I feel like people who are upset about it are getting worked. I don't really understand what the issue is here. I think Moxley and his group are some of the more interesting parts of AEW television in general right now, so I'm pretty much into whatever they're doing. I enjoyed the match, and I thought the match was great, and I honestly love the finish to the pay-per-view as a whole. This is going to do it for me, though. I would probably give this event like an 8.5 or a 9 out of 10. I thought it was really good. No real low points on the show. Obviously, there were some, but none of them really sucked. And the highs were super high. You had the triple threat match, the main event. Brody King versus Darby Allin was excellent. Obviously, the opener I thought was also excellent. And AEW pay-per-views always deliver, really. And so hopefully they can continue this momentum and kind of fix the TV. The television hasn't been super good and is very inconsistent and frustrating, but the company pretty much always delivers on pay-per-views. So that is one thing that you can always count on. That is going to do it for me, though. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe before you head out and check out some of the other videos on the channel. But I will talk to you again soon. See you.